So the origin of this is, see, about a year ago, we started to be very serious internally that we need to start showing to our stakeholders some of the changes that are happening within Thermax. And we had been working on this for a few years, and we started to actively talk about Thermax as a trusted partner for energy transition. So now we are starting to say we are a trusted partner for energy transition, but why should anyone believe us? So the idea about this fest was to get our stakeholders a bit more information on how is it that we are going about it. And the best way to share this was to bring our stakeholders here and over a 4-day period take the media and the press, take our customers, take our investors and the analysts, and possibly most importantly our employees, all through some of the newer products, some of the newer things that we are working on in the space of energy transition, giving them a window into what is in the work today, and perhaps also through that giving them a sense of where the company is going. So that was the idea. It's a question which is important. It's a question which is also one that our board is asking. I'll answer the question in 2 parts. One, for a company like Thermax, even from the way you take a look at scope 1, scope 2, scope 3 emissions also, we can of course manage our scope 1 and scope 2 emissions. I'll talk about that in my second part of the answer. But the ability and the biggest difference that we can make is in the solutions that we can provide that enable circularity in the larger ecosystem itself. And there we have our biggest role. So almost everything that you see around waste to energy, waste heat recovery, biomass, bio-CNG, across what the cooling solutions that you saw on absorption chillers, the truck that you saw that takes waste heat that otherwise goes out and converts that into cooling and hence lower energy. In that sense, sustainable and creating that circular loop is our DNA itself. And our single biggest calling is to be able to do that for our customers. But to be able to do that for our customers, you cannot just say, I won't do it for myself. So we are very actively looking at our own carbon footprint, our own water footprint. Carbon, we have publicly indicated that we want to cut down our carbon footprint by 50% by 2030. We are looking at, can we accelerate that even further? And we are now actively looking at our water footprint and reducing that. Multiple of our plants have gone, facilities have gone zero plastic, and we will continue to drive that throughout as well. On the equipment that we make, the biggest portion of our equipment is steel. A disproportionately high portion of our equipment is steel, more than 90%. So steel has its own very specific circularity, where steel goes through back into scrap and then goes into. So it is not a process that we directly employ and we touch, but our board is asking, how are you going to make like a boiler more recyclable? And those are questions that we are going through and coming back and answering. How do we even answer a question when a boiler is scrapped? It just goes completely into scrap itself. But how do you make it more recyclable is a very tough question to answer, and we are still going to go back to the board and answer that question. That was the first part I said. This was the second part. The first part I said is what we can do to drive circularity for the economy, the larger ecosystem, which we can do 100 times more than what we can do internally, because who we are as a company providing solutions for energy and environment, that becomes a call to action. Completely lead. So we are working, Meher talked about that whole, and in that sense, not as the E part, but the S part as well. The social part, where you're working with the way you work with your entire society, the local communities, the people that work in your plants, the migrant labor, and then very much with our vendors as well, having a sustainable practice by which We encourage our vendors to become more sustainable, tracking them with a metric. And that too is a journey, because we need to get better and better with each year, knowing that the baseline that we have is just a baseline. We need to improve considerably. So that also we do. Sure. So this comes out, I guess, in again my answer to this question will be very similar to the question that I answered before. Yeah, what I can do to be able to help our customers circularity and to help them use materials, etc., develop materials, like you need to recycle plastic. Ultimately, you need to go through some sort of a thermocatalytic process. The heat that is generated for that thermocatalytic process, can I generate it from that waste itself? And by that, bring the overall cost of that project down, which makes that entire circularity viable, is a big change that we can do. All of our newer facilities that we do, we are taking the utmost attention that eventually when we finish, that these have the highest green certifications, are done with a design that they use as much recycled material, and we are actually asking our vendors to start reporting how much recycled materials, etc., they are using as part of the development plan. Again, though, those are maybe 2 plants that we are going to build. The ecosystem that we can drive through the products that we develop is much, much, much bigger. So that takes our biggest focus in that sense. See, we track, as I said, almost every solution that we have. And I'll take an example of, say, TOSL, which is the plant that you saw where we provide build, own, operate solutions. And we have got now multiple customers in the food industry who traditionally would have food plants have to come up all across the country, because the demand is all across the country and nobody wants to transport it. And historically, and food processing invariably requires heat, steam, water, power, all of these things. Traditionally, that would have been done by putting up a captive coal power plant. Today, much of what you saw out here was a replacement of the traditional captive power plant by a mix of renewable energy to meet the electricity needs and a biomass based plant that provides as much of the steam that is needed, and a recycled water solution which uses very less energy and uses as much of the water as it can from the process itself. The innovation that you have, and we can share the example that was done, which has got very specifics on the amount of CO2, carbon footprint reduction and all that. The numbers are massive, which has been largely the reason that on build, own, operate, if we did 10 plants over a period of the first 10 years effectively. But from 10 to 42, we have gone in the last 3 years. The demand from our customers for providing some of these green, overall their manufacturing becomes green by us providing the key part, which is the energy part. By us making that go green, their entire plant and their energy footprint goes down substantially. And that's a big change that we are bringing about. That's a good example as well. See, one, as we talked about, that from the very beginning, from the ethos of the company itself, doing the right thing was what was important. As we said, making money is of course extremely important, but it cannot be at the cost of, you can't be good to yourself and not be good for the society, as Anuradha famously spoke. That ethos continues in all parts of the work that we do, including our manufacturing bit and our manufacturing practices as well. I talked about some of the social implications of the work that we do, working on what we call a social compact, working with our entire ecosystem to make sure that whatever development that happens, we do it in conjunction with the people that work out there. Our CSR also targeted well with that. But as the world around us is changing, we are very focused now on, say, what is the energy carbon footprint of each one of our processes, the rate at which we are bringing green electricity into everything. Water recycling, starting to look at water recycling very deeply, starting to say by when will we become water neutral, which means sustainability is also a water sustainability. It's not just an energy sustainability, it's a water sustainability. What target do we want to take by which time we will become carbon neutral and water neutral? Yeah, so we'll come back and very actively for carbon neutrality. We've already shared a date. For water neutrality, we'll continue to push the dates. We are looking to accelerated reporting beyond what the BRSR standards actively mandate us to report. We want to proactively start to report more and more so that there is focus on every one of these numbers, yeah, including what is the recyclability of the products that we develop. See, as I said, for Thermax, the big challenge is that our single biggest raw material and our single biggest product in that sense is driven by steel. Yeah, so you're limited by the recyclability of steel, which by the way is not bad. Yes, steel is one of the most fungible, recyclable products. It comes in large, it's got weight, it is easy to transport around, and hence eventually they recycle. Our big focus then is how do you make sure that whatever work we are doing through those products, through those solutions that we are developing, we are able to decarbonize and make not just our manufacturing sustainable in food and beverage, in textiles, in steel, cement, multiple other industries. Maybe that is a little bit of a shift, because all the questions that you are asking me are around how are you doing for your own manufacturing, and my response in many all the cases is that what I can do for our customers is 100 times more relevant than what I do for ourselves, because our customers are the ones that use plastics, use variety of different things that goes into their manufacturing processes. My manufacturing is largely around steel and metal and related works, yeah, as you could see from a lot of what you see here. Very low, single digits. It is not something, while we talk about what we are doing to get better, this is one of the areas where we definitely need to get better. Women in manufacturing is low across the country, but that is a mistake that we have. Yeah, so what are we doing? One, we're actively making sure that in our new people that come in, whether they come in at a manufacturing floor or they are coming in as GETs into the company, that we are getting a much higher percentage of women. In our Sherwal plant, for example, we're trying to take substantially more women. In Sri City, we've got active programs on recruiting more women for the manufacturing floor. Take them fresh into the manufacturing floor, manage their careers, train them into big things, and help them grow their careers into Thermax. I don't think if we went and said, bring me 20-year experienced manufacturing engineers, too many of them would be women. So we need to start focusing on bringing in talent, but then creating an environment that encourages diversity and inclusion. Yeah, so the entire environment then, in terms of making sure that their careers are taken care of, they have an active voice in saying what is working, what is not. We understand some of their unique challenges, like there could be times in their career where they may need to take break from their jobs. Creating that safe space, understanding that their career tracks may be slightly different, encouraging those career tracks. Also making sure that we don't shy away from sending them to the field, sending them into operating environments. And the excuse cannot be that women can't go there. The excuse is the women will go there. How do you make sure everything around is there in a way that the women can go there? If women can go in the army, surely they can go on a field site and and our work sites. Absolutely. So those are all excuses and barriers that we have to cut down one after the other. And this is a number that Thermax surely has to improve. Yeah, and we have to double the number of women that we have in a very short period of time at a minimum. And this is not just Thermax, this is the entire manufacturing industry of India that needs to get better.